So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk about who the council is. And I do use who because it really is all about the people who are both on staff and serving on the council. The council has an unusual position in that we are federally funded. 100% of our operating budget and granting budget comes out of federal funds. Our existence is mandated by federal law, but we also exist under Florida statute. To date, we have leveraged over $100 million for the people of the state of Florida. And that is just through the end of 22. So we are well on our way again for this year. And really the goal of the council is to bring together stakeholders from across the state and bring everyone to the table. And that includes key agencies. Our focus is really on policy and practice. We are not a direct service provider. Our goal is to identify who the people are and empower them to be able to do that. Our plan is a 5-year plan. We always operate under the 5-year plan. And let's see how this works without a mouse. And what we do is we spend about a year plus working on a comprehensive review and analysis of who the people are in the state of Florida and what the issues are that they are facing. The council then takes a look at those and identifies what the key initiatives will be for the next 5 years. We are in year 2 of our 5-year plan, which is available on our website, and again, the link is in your handouts. But this is a nice, easy to read as opposed to what we file with the feds, which is, 1 billion pages long, about how we've identified our goals for the next 5 years, what those priority areas are, and what are some of the activities we're going to be participating in. So I really encourage you all to take a look at it and see where our projects align with your needs. That does not mean that for the next 5 years, we only work on those projects. We do have the capacity to add to the plan for emerging needs or projects that are brought to our attention that we and the council view as worthy of funding. So don't hesitate if you think that there is a need that we are not addressing to share that with us. If enough people share it, we will take a look at it and look at funding. So now I've told you a little bit about us. I want to ask a little bit about you guys. So I'm going to ask you to either take out your phones. Come on. It's slow, but it's going. There we go. Either your phones or you open a window on your computer. The QR code will take you right to the question I'm about to ask, or you can go to menti.com and put in that code. Give y'all a second because I know nobody had their phone out while I was speaking, so you'll have to dig it out. And the question you're going to see is, what are the issues facing your program, students, faculty, and/or staff? And you'll see there's a lot of spaces for you. I didn't want to limit you. And I want you to just start typing away. And remember that I'm going to take this back to the council. I'm actually going to put this slide, your slide up at our council meeting in May so that they know what issues you brought to me. There we go. Oops. That's weird. There we go. Okay, keep going. Type and enter. Update. There we go. We're gonna play game and guess who put which things in. Let me give you a few more minutes. About 30 seconds, actually. Come on. You're only supposed to reload. There we go. Okay, great. So hopefully I will address some of these concerns today, give you some information on how we've been working on some of the things we heard from you in the old 5-year plan. Thank you. Okay. I want to start talking about the one nearest and dearest, I think, to all of your hearts, and that is all of the education goals and projects. So for the last 5-year plan, education was identified as one of the key priorities in the state of Florida, and there were a number of projects, but there really are 3 that I want to point out to you and talk about today. One is Project TOPS. The second is improving post-secondary outcomes for students who identify with autism spectrum disorder and Hispanic Latino, not the catchiest of titles, but a very cool program. And the third is the Post-Secondary Models Project. Project TOPS was specifically targeted to students 18 to 22, and the others who had exited, who had exited K-12, and the others were, the second one was for university in Florida colleges and universities. And the third was a sort of a cross-cutting look at all of the post-secondary education and training opportunities that could be available in the state of Florida. Project TOPS. Project TOPS's goal was to develop inclusive programming that benefited all students and that could serve as a model program. And it not only achieved, but exceeded our expectations. I won't go into boring numbers, but suffice to say that on every measurable, we were able to see students enroll, continue, and complete programs. And that, if you remember, if you think about it, was during the height of COVID. This plan ended in 21, the December of 21. And one of the really lovely outcomes of this project was an expression that I will use several times during this, and it proves the theory that a rising tide raises all boats. That it wasn't just the students enrolled with an educational and eligibility of a developmental disability or an intellectual disability who benefited from this program. As one of our attendees, Vivian will tell you, she had students from all over the school saying, wait, we want to participate in those programs teaching you how to write a resume. Wait, you're going to have model mock interviews? Wait, we want to sit and talk. And so what came out of it was a student body with aligned goals, and I think improved numbers for everybody. And when we talk about a program being able to be replicated, that is always the #1 goal of the council. Can this be sustained and can this be replicated? We don't want to fund something that's going to go on for 2 or 3 years. And I'm really proud to say that this program is sustainable, as are the other 2 I'm going to talk about, in partnership with FCSUA. They have played a critical role in making sure that these resources get updated and available and out there. And when you want to look at something, my computer does this all the time. So out of the Project TOPS program came a replication guide, two-part guide that is available again on the FCSUA website. One is for launching programs from the policymaker side. How do you decide you want to do this? How do you convince somebody you want your school to do this? And then from the other side, the nuts and bolts of how do you do this? How do you manage it? What do you need in resources and staff? And the response has been incredible. And I wish Drew was here because Drew's the one that gave me the information on the number of new programs that have applied to you all for certification over the last couple of years. And we at the council really like to think that we were a big part of that, and that this guide is a fabulous place for somebody to start as they're looking if they are a technical and career education center. The second program addressed two issues. One was we had noticed that the enrollment of college students with some sort of IDD who were of Hispanic Latino background did not match the statistics for the state of Florida. So they weren't enrolling in post-secondary programs. When they did enroll, they didn't complete at the same level as their peers. And so this started with an incredibly comprehensive research project done with the Card Center at UCF, where we had people identify what are their obstacles? Why don't you enroll? Number one reason, I didn't know about it. And so what we saw come out during the length of this project was a change in when in the state of Florida those IEP meetings start to talk about enrollment and talk about options, and planning begins so that you are not suddenly sitting there in high school saying, well, what am I going to do next? You've now heard about it from middle school, and we can bring more resources to the table sooner. The second issue, the issue of why don't you complete, really sort of pointed to two things. Number one was my course load is too heavy. I flunked out. I couldn't manage. My college counselor told me I had to be a full-time student, and that meant that I was taking this many classes. The other issue that came out of it was the idea of funding. I don't know how to apply for loans. My parents aren't going to go to a bank for loans. And so that was addressed. And this is another case where a rising tide did in fact raise all boats, because the materials and the group we were looking at were specifically students with autism spectrum disorder. And we have found that those materials are in demand by all groups. And one of the other positive outcomes from this project was that VR has begun. So we found out that the rule was right. The implementation wasn't being done properly. And so VR jumped on board and said, we will retrain, and we will make sure that students know that what a full-time course load is, with success is the ultimate goal, and not simply a full course load in credit hours. This project led to more materials than I could possibly show you guys in one session. And these materials are all available both on the Card Center site and on the FCSUA site. One of the things we found is that different stakeholders have different needs. And so, as you can see, the materials are arranged by audience. There are videos, there are statements from other students, there are handouts that can be used from the high school or middle school on to plan. One of the things that Terry brought forward to us from CARD was a lot of people within the university said, great, so now we have these students and you're letting them enroll in classes, but they're not self-disclosing. I don't know who they are. I just think I have a student that's not keeping up, or a student that's raising their hand too much, or you can fill in the blanks there. And so a whole educator section of materials were created, and a section of materials for students about why it is important to self-disclose. What do you get out of it? How do you go and approach a professor and say, hey, this is what works for me, this doesn't. We completed a survey at the end of the program, and the rates went up to 100% of the students surveyed had self-identified to their faculty and felt that it was a positive, it had a positive outcome, I'm sorry guys, on their academic success. The third education program is called Improving Post-Secondary Outcomes, and it was done with Think College out of the University of Massachusetts. And we have dubbed this College Matters, and it has been such a success that it even got its own little logo, got its own Florida logo and its own website. There are learning modules for educators. There's a 5-part speaker series and promising practices. Again, materials not only for you to educate yourself, but to educate your community into what a successful post-secondary program looks like. The newest one, which is in your handout but not on my slide, is an administrator perspectives on what it meant for their college community to add these programs. And Iris and I were talking about it earlier. It is powerful and moving, and I encourage you to watch it. It is short, but also to share it with the administrators you work with about what does it mean. This is, yes, maybe more work in certain areas, but I'm going to say it again, a rising tide raises all boats, and the impact that it has had on the programs that have added the post-secondary programs is exceptional. Little change, the awareness and education outreach toolkit is available. And that is really we want to add a program. How do we make our community aware? How do we build them in? And then how do we get the word out that we have this program available? I'm also pleased to report that even though this project ended in September of 22, the council has approved 1 more year of funding for it. It's not listed under a priority area, but it is the idea of creating ambassadors, student ambassadors who have IDD, who are either currently enrolled or recently completed a post-secondary program, train them and send them out to speak, make them available as a speakers bureau to talk to students. What does this really look like? Yeah, you tell me that I can do this, but I don't know anyone who has. Well, now you do. And it is in the earliest stages, but by September of next year, we will have, again, a replicable handbook that we can send to other schools if you want to create your own internal group of ambassadors. And also there will be a group of ambassadors available out of out of Florida Gulf Coast. I got it. It's like, no, out of, come on, somebody help me with the name of the school on the West Coast.
On the West Side, you thinking about USF?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. I kept
Mhm.
thinking it's on the West Coast, but it's not. Yes. Thank you. And so we're really excited about that program and look for more information about it probably about 6 months from now. Another area that we heard from a lot of people, especially people in post-secondary education, and I will tell you that the last meeting you had, I was asked to talk as a resource with some people from the Panhandle area who had started a program, but were having a hard time, and their single biggest issue was transportation. And so this has been and continues to be a big focus. This is one of those areas where COVID really did a job on these programs. And so even though they were all slated to end early on, we are continuing funding them so that we can fine tune them. The first one was Hillsborough County, and they were kind of the pilot program for what you could do to make transportation more available, more cost-effective, and more realistic. And so we took that initial year of funding and then went ahead and replicated the project in 3 additional areas, and they all operate a little bit differently. They all have slightly different nuances to them. Each one has put together a little writer's guide that you can take a look at. But we're excited that they have now received additional funding and award from the Commission for Transportation of the Disadvantaged. And the Commission is also looking at replicating these in additional counties. We know that ridership in these pilot areas, the 3 of the 4 piloted, one of them has had political issues with getting off the ground, and so we expect them to launch this year. But ridership quadruples instantly and is then sustained. And these people are going to school programs, they are going to jobs, they are living more independent lives. And so this continues and will continue to be. So I encourage you, if you are in one of these areas, to look into it. And if you are not, to reach out to your local communities and let them know that these are easy to do and will actually save them money in the long run. The next area is what happens next, employment. Again, another area that doesn't really go away. It's not that it's not a priority for us, it's that these programs are now established and we will continue to support them. There's a whole lot of words on this screen, but in short, it represents a decade's worth of work. As I said, we are continuing them in the new plan. And some of the outcomes and things that could be useful to your students is the Employment First Florida website, where you will have work lessons. They're going to open slowly. So it is a self-driven, untimed set of modules. So you don't have to start in the very beginning and jump in. If you have somebody who knows they want a job and knows what they want to do, there's no point in doing the career counseling ones. But it really is to get self-advocates thinking about why they want to work, what they want to do, and how they will go about achieving those. There are some really powerful interviews and videos here. I won't play them for you now, but about why people made the decision to go to work. Perhaps for those self-advocates who aren't sure that's their path, and some really hard hitting job stories. Additionally, is that out of these programs came a couple of really sound suggestions that have moved forward through all of the our employment efforts and employment efforts throughout the state. And one is sort of a common sense one, you would think, but it wasn't being done, is everything should be an easy read. And so the training toolkit that was created is now available in easy read, in a nice, easy to follow. It can be available in other ways, but at least we know that it will help people with intellectual and developmental disabilities chart their own course and take more control of theirs. The other is a standardization and a set of competencies for employment specialists and job coaches. So if you send one of your students to one of the Employment First centers or sponsored centers, you know that they're going to be working with someone who has been trained, who has the expertise necessary to work with your students towards employment. And I think I saw this next word up on the slide when you were doing is the now what, the transition. These materials will also benefit families, educators, but really the transition website was created to target transition age youth in helping them plan for and monitor. And again, there's a series of courses available. There's lots of links out to other sites that will help them. And it's how do you determine what you want to do? Again, everything has been done in easy read. I want to hop out here for a second because this is a so they can go in, they can practice their social skills, they can do their planning, and a full set of courses that are available free to you and your students to help them manage that next stage, what's going to happen after graduation. Some other projects we've been working on that we continue to work on that I think are of interest, will be of interest to all of you. One is Florida SAND, which is the self-advocate network in the state of Florida. It is now its own 501c3. And so as part of participation in Florida SAND, not only are the self-advocates learning how to advocate for themselves, how to advocate on a government level, how to advocate on a small personal level, they are learning how to run a non-for-profit. So it is sort of subtle on the job training because we've snuck in this whole how to manage a business in there, and it's been going really well. As part of that, we've developed the Fellows Program. Those are graduates of Partners in Policymaking, Florida SAND members who have gained the expertise and are going back and serving as support and fellows for the new members of the organization. And of course, we continue to support PIP training statewide. Okay, time for your phones again. If you don't, does everybody still have the code on their screen? Okay, if not, you can go to the website, menti.com. I don't think I can pull it back up. Let's try, but I think so. And tell me which one of these you think will be useful. Which one do you see? What are the issues that your students ask you about? That's great. Interesting. Wonderful. Very interesting. And I know you will all get the handouts. Yeah, people are still voting. And I know this was a lot of information and it was done very quickly because I want to give time to hear from you all about what your needs are going forward, which of these things, you know, as I said here, which one of these things do you think are going to be important to you? The staff members of the council and I are always available. At the end of your handout is all of my contact information. As you probably know, the council is headquartered up in Tallahassee. I'm actually in South Florida. So these may not be my programs. They may not be areas I can help you with, but we are a small but mighty crew. And we will get you to where you need to be. Questions, comments? Why is it not letting me go to the next slide?
Okay, well, on behalf of Project Tops, I have to take a minute to say thank you for giving us our start on behalf of Ada and myself and our small but mighty team as well. And all our
You
students
are a smaller and mightier team.
But all the students understand where we started, and it was the council that brought us to the Florida Center. So we are very grateful for the opportunity. We're very proud that we are still here and trying to move forward step by step. And the needs are ginormous, I think, in every single county, whether we're Miami-Dade or Broward or smaller or rural counties in the state or in the country. So we're very grateful to you, Jamie, Rick, before you, and the entire behind the scenes team. Because that's how we started. That's how Project Tops started. And I'm very proud to always share that in any presentation or webinar that Janice and the team have asked us to do. I always say, you know, one of the things that may make us different in terms of Tops is how we started was through the support of the DD Council. Yeah. And we learned along the way, and they brought us to the information about the center when the center first started. And that was incorporated into our grant for the DD Council. You know, we needed to apply to the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. And then further on that we needed to go for the comprehensive, you know, status. So all of that was because of the council. So we're very grateful.
And we brag about it a lot, you guys, a lot. So, and heaven knows if people call me and ask me for information, I was like, well, you might want to reach out to Vivian because.
Jamie, would you be able to go to your website and show some of the publications and any information that you think that participants in this meeting would be interested in knowing how to find out information on your website?
Sure, I can absolutely do that. Let me sharing for 1 second. So we are in the middle of moving away from paper. Oops, it'd be good if I could spell. There again. Some shifts may be forthcoming, but basically the information you all are going to want to see. The first place I would suggest you look always is under our reports section, because there's a couple of super interesting things here. One is our annual reports. What have we done? What have we funded? What have our results been? Any research that has been done, legislators come to us a lot and say, tell us the truth. What is the state of Hispanic enrollment in Florida colleges. Give us that statewide plan, what looks like going on, and our research reports are available. Also, as I mentioned before, that 5-year plan, that what are we in the middle of, what are we doing? And this will give you, I know I'm scrolling fast, but you can take a look at the current plan. You can also go back and look at past plans if you'd like to, and see kind of what the trend is and what we are doing. Under funding, there's 3 things I'm going to suggest you take a look, 2 things you take a look at. One is the invitation for proposals. For the most part, it used to be in the old days, we funded everything all at once. And so IFPs were issued once in preparation for in the spring, right around now. That has changed a little bit. And we actually know now do a rolling funding cycle based on needs that come up. And so you will be able to take a look at what do we have open, what have we funded in the past. Here's a look at a bunch of last year's, 2 years ago's IFPs, and those stay on board. We encourage you to follow them. The other is, if you sign up for our emails, you will be notified whenever an IFP is issued. So if there's something that is of issue, as Vivian said, it's a great way to start a program, to dig deeper into any research that you're interested in. Also under funding is all of our current projects. And the way we've set this up is by title. So if you take a look and you're like, a community paramedicine program, wonder what that is. Wonder if that would help my students, or you can click on that. It will tell you who the funding partner is and how much, and also give you a brief statement. And then the best part, it gives you a link to the person who is the contact in the community working on that project. And so they would, so for years, for example, if you clicked on Project TAPS, there was all of Vivian's personal information and how to reach her. But, you know, adult employment, partners in policy making, as you can see here, that youth ambassador program I talked about. Here's, if you want more information, here's a really good place to start. Just go and take a look at how the project was designed. And if you don't want to talk to me, who do you want to talk? Who can you talk to about it? Well, you can reach out to the other Jamie and get some information. And so I think this is always a good place to start when finding out kind of what the council's doing and if the council aligns with what you want. We of course have a list of our council members. And this, when I said if you want to subscribe to our mailing list, that's under news. Or if you want to come join us at the council. We do still have some publications that we make available online. We no longer keep a warehouse of publications and mail, so everything is downloadable, but these would be the most requested and updated publications. Everything will or should or will be available in both English and Spanish. Many of the documents are also being translated into either plain text or easy read where appropriate. But again, I will tell you that this Lighting the Way Alternatives to Guardianship is like the #1 downloaded thing on our website at the moment. And then the Planning Ahead Guide is #2, and a new 2023 version of Planning Ahead Guide. The Planning Ahead Guide will be out this year, so within the second quarter. Other questions about our website, where to find things? what else, is there if there's something else you'd want to see on the website that might be of use to you? And of course, anytime, if you have no idea where to start, just call the main number in Tallahassee and they will be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Jamie?
And thank you, Iris, for putting all those links in.
That was Amanda.
Amanda, I'm sorry, I didn't scroll up. Thank you, Amanda.
Yes.
And again, those should be in your handout, so you should be good.
So the next thing is to complete the evaluation. We'll be putting the link for the evaluation in the chat box. We will also be sending you a copy of the recording along with the links. I understand that the links were not active in the handout. So
Okay.
we'll make sure you get those links. And that's it. We really appreciate you attending today's webinar. Our next webinar will be in May, and it will be with the Able Trust Foundation, speaking about employment. So we hope you will join us for that webinar as well. Are there any other comments or questions for Jamie before we sign out?
And again, in that handout is all of my information. Feel free to reach out after if things occur to you. I appreciate your attention and your feedback and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
And